Welcome back. We've been discussing those spending talks on Capitol Hill this morning, and Steve Rattner is here with more on that. All right, let's talk about your charts. Let's start with the first one right behind you there. Slim majority, slow Congress. We've talked about how historically unproductive this Congress has been. What are you looking at there on the chart?
Yeah. So you guys have been talking about it, so I thought I'd bring some charts and some numbers to put some facts behind it. So the Republicans have the smallest majority, actually, I think, in history at the moment. They have just 2 seats. They started with 4. You had George Santos leave. You had Kevin McCarthy leave. They're down to just 2 seats. And the consequence of that is that they have passed the fewest number of bills in modern history in their first year. They've passed just 24 bills, and you can see what went on here in the past. It's a dramatic drop-off. But, you know, it always wasn't thus, and this gets back a little bit to what Joe was talking about the debt and the deficit, because back in 99 and 2000, they also had a small majority. But you can see over here that they actually passed a lot of legislation, and as Joe said, they dealt with the debt. We had a surplus. We got a lot of legislation passed. Congress could function. But it's really a problem within the Republican Party because they can't function. Mike Johnson does not have control over that far right, as we're going to talk about further in a minute. And so it's all stalled. And it's so ironic because the Senate was supposed to be the ones who were slow, and the House was supposed to be the ones who were fast. And the Senate's job, as it was famously said, was to cool the hot tea of the House. Now it's the other way around. Legislation like this deal that James Lankford is working on with the Democrats is coming out of the Senate, and the House is sitting there essentially doing almost nothing.
So as we move to your next chart, Steve, it's illustrative of what you're talking about here, which is the inability to get anything done, including a budget, which used to be not such a difficult task. But now we live moment to moment, almost month to month, trying to pass these emergency budgets to avoid government shutdowns.
Yeah, when the Republicans took over the House, they said regular order, we're going to have a budget. The government's fiscal year starts on October 1. We're going to be ready to go with a real budget. Here we are now in the middle of January. There's no budget. There are a bunch of continuing resolutions. There was one passed last night to avert a government shutdown tonight. That's how close it came. It was only passed because the Democrats supported it. Johnson barely got one above a majority of his caucus. Half of his caucus voted against this deal. But it's a stopgap measure, as you pointed out, and it takes us to about the 1st of March. And between now and then, they have to deal with it. So let's talk about what's at stake there. So Biden originally proposed $67 billion of more spending for the current fiscal year. Kevin McCarthy made a deal with him before he was kicked out that essentially federal spending would not go up. Chuck Schumer just kind of renegotiated that deal with Mike Johnson. And while the numbers sort of are the same, in fact, Mike Johnson got one thing that's important. He got, to him anyway, he got a further cut in IRS spending from $10 billion to $20 billion. Now, the irony of this is cutting IRS spending actually increases the deficit, as this chart shows, because the government collects more than $1 from taxpayers who are not filing their taxes properly for every dollar we spend on more IRS agents to do those audits. And so the Republicans who claim they want to cut the deficit actually are increasing it because they're trying to give Americans more loopholes to not pay taxes. Now, the other issue that Johnson is going to face is the fact that his far-right caucus wants $58 billion of spending cuts. It is not at all clear that they will vote for any deal that Johnson makes. And once again, he's going to have to go to the Democrats to pass this thing, if and when we ever get to it, because of the immigration issue, which we'll get to in a second. He's going to have to go to the Democrats, and it'll be interesting to see how all that unfolds. And, of course, the question is, how long does Johnson survive with a caucus that doesn't even support him when he makes a deal?
So let's slide along the wall to that next chart on immigration. This is the question that's being debated as we speak in the Congress right now. The Senate says they're close to a deal, a bipartisan deal. The House won't take a good deal, it appears, because they're getting pressure from Donald Trump not to give Joe Biden a win. But let's talk about the immigration crisis and what it looks like right now in your chart.
Sure. So just as a reminder, yeah, we have had a big surge in what are called encounters at the border. It's up to about 2.6 million a year. This chart is in months, but it's about 2.6 million a year. But let's just be clear. These are not people who are sneaking across the border and disappearing into America to become illegal immigrants. These are people, as I'll talk about in just one second, who actually are in the hands of our Customs and Border Patrol and are going through the system. This group down here at the bottom are what are called the gotaways, the ones who actually do sneak across the border and disappear into our system. But the consequence of that is that this black line, almost 90% of the people who try to cross our border end up in the hands of Customs and Border Patrol.
Wow.
So it's not an issue of a wall of people sneaking across and disappearing. This number has actually come down very substantially for some complicated reasons that I'm going to spare you. And most of these people are in our hands. So what happens to them? So last year, 2.6 million of them ended up in the hands of Customs and Border Patrol, as you can see here, either by coming across through a port of entry or coming across somewhere else. And many of them just turn themselves into Border Patrol because they want to go through the system. They're going to claim asylum. Here's the problem. The problem is they end up in our court system. 1.5 million of them came across the border. They were apprehended. They were processed. And they were given what's called a notice to appear before an immigration court and begin their hearings. But it hasn't happened. It's because we have this huge backlog. Why do we have this huge backlog? Because Congress has not funded, ironically, and this is why we need this bill, Congress has not funded the whole immigration court system sufficiently to process all these folks. The other thing most people probably don't know is that 850,000 of them actually left. Some of them voluntarily, some of them were sent back. But out of the 2.6 million of them, 850,000 just went back. 300,000 got what's called parole, which is a humanitarian process for people coming from places like Haiti and Cuba, Venezuela, where there's essentially a failed state. But our court system is so messed up that of all these 2.6 million people, only fewer than 300,000 actually got relief at the end of the process. And so we need to pass this immigration bill to get this problem solved.